being here. I wanted to talk to you about the military because I know you joined the Air Force. Do you think it's important to research each branch of military before joining?
Of course, I did. Well, anything you do, you should research. You should just jump right in. You know, that's common sense. So, you know, you want to compare and contrast Army versus Navy, Navy versus Marine. You know, maybe talk to family members, friends that have been in the armed forces to see their opinion about, you know, which is the best branch for you, because every branch is not for everybody. The Air Force isn't for everybody. So, you know, I did my due diligence and researched, and I found the Air Force was a better match for me.
Okay, so there are 5 branches. 5? Do you know how many branches? I think there are like 5 branches of military. I know, well, which include the Air Force, the Army, the Coast Guard, the Marine Corps, the Navy, and I know there's like reserves. Air National Guard and stuff like that. But you chose the Air Force, and why? Why did you choose?
Because it's a career type of organization. They're not a battle like you go out to war quicker, and like in the Army, I learned front line. You know, they didn't really have a lot of career oriented services for me that I like in the Army or the Navy. I just didn't want to be on the front line because I didn't know what the Army would entail. And I just heard more good things about the Air Force than the Army and the Navy. I just like the Air Force more because it's more focused on education rather than just basically just doing it and, you know, going to combat, going to war all the time. You know, I have a lot of people friends that are in the Army that went to war a lot more than I did. I didn't even go anywhere when I was in the Air Force. Like, I didn't have to go fight. I didn't have to be on the front line. I didn't go to Iraq. I didn't go to Kuwait. Everything that I did was career oriented. And then plus the Air Force, it helps you when you decide to go out in the real life world and get a real job. And another thing that I like about the Air Force, when I went, the training was only for 6 weeks for boot camp for the Air Force. For the Army, it was like 8 weeks. And I wasn't I didn't even want to go in for 6 weeks. So I said, whatever's the bare minimum, that. And then when I talked to the recruiter, they had a list of careers that I had. And with the Air Force, you have to test for it. You know, and again, I don't know much about the Army and the Navy. I can't really tell you that much about it, but I can just tell you what I've experienced. And my experience with the Air Force was good. You know, and but throughout my life in the Air Force, I ran across people that was in the Army and the Navy, and I ran across women that said, I wish I could have joined the Air Force. So a lot of things that I know about the Air Force, you can't Google it because you weren't in it. So I've actually experienced it with people that have been in it, and I've heard of people saying, I wish I had to join the Air Force. You know, they treat y'all a lot better. When y'all go TDY, you get a hotel room. We got to sleep out in a tent.
What's
so I mean,
TDY?
Temporary duty. Go out. You know, I was stationed in Georgia, so I may go out to Alabama for 2 weeks and work with the pilots. You know, they'll just send you places temporarily, kind of like, you know, when a job sends you somewhere for training or whatever. And every now and again, I'll run across an Army person or a Navy person. And a lot of times, and there's been rumor mill of the military, everybody always felt the Air Force people got treated a lot better, and we did. And I've seen it firsthand. So a lot of stuff that I experienced, you definitely won't see it on the internet. You won't Google it.
That's why I wanted to have you on, because I know I didn't hear much about the Air Force. Most popular is maybe Marine, especially the Army.
Because those are the easiest branches to get in. It don't take much. You have to score a certain score on your ASVAB to even get in the Air Force.
And ASVAB is?
The test, the entry test to get into the military. Everybody has to take that to get in the military. So depending on your score, and it's scored on a scale of like, I think up to 100, depending on how well you score in certain, there's certain parts to it. I can't remember, Jeania, so many years ago, but it's different parts of the ASVAB that they score you on, and it's all based on how the score that you make in certain areas on that test is going to be based on the career that they put you in. So, and it's not only that, it's also the overall number of the test. So there's like, the test can be broken up in like 5 to 6 sections. Depending on how high you score, there's a mechanical section. There's an actual section for working in an office assistant, little stuff like that. They have this broken down in a career type of
So you don't choose your...
No, you know, it's based on how you score on your ASVAB. So depending on your score, they say, okay, this is what you score. And first you got to make sure you score a certain amount to even get in the Air Force. So if you score a certain amount overall, okay, great, we will accept you. Now here's this book. They gave me this book, and there's a list of the careers that I qualify for. Pick the one that you want. That's kind of how they did it. So in the career that I picked, I did it. You know, I mean, you could be just about anything you could think of in the Air Force. Again, you could do it again in the Army and the Navy too. But this is just my experience of what I saw. But yeah, so I picked the career, and you go through basic training, and then once you go through basic training, you go through tech school to learn your career. Then it's like a college, and then once you're done, then you start your job for however many long you signed up for the military.
Do you mind saying what career are you?
I was the one Charlie Oscar, so it was the operations system management. I work with pilots.
Oh, okay. And do you prepare for the test, or is
Yeah, you can prepare. You can go to Barnes and Nobles and get it, just like how you prepare for the SAT, the ACT. I mean, get the book, the ASVAB book, and I studied it when I got out of high school. I studied it for about 3 months.
Because you went in right after
Not directly after, because I graduated in '93, so I didn't go into the military until June of '94. So it was almost a whole year. Okay. So between the time I got out of high school and when I decided to join, then I went to the bookstore, got the ASVAB book, and I studied it, and I scored really high. But, you know, if you don't score high enough, which everybody can get into the military, so if you score extremely low on the ASVAB, the Army will take you, the Navy will take you, and the Marines will take you. And they have them lined up when you get to MEPS to get, you know, they take you through the physicals and stuff. All the stuff you do, you get sworn in. It's all under the same roof. And they got the Army there, the Navy there, the Air Force. And you have the option. I could still, that day I still have the option of joining the Air Force. Or you can go, you have people like waving, like, come on over here. No, I'm going to stick to the Air Force. You know, so you still have the options that all the way up until before you get sworn in. If you say, you know what, I was going to go with the Air Force, but I'm going to go and walk over here to the Army, and they'll swear you in and send you on
So
home.
sworn in, that means it's a commitment for...
Of course, just like you get married and take a vow. It's a vow to the United States that you swear to do.
And it's for a particular amount of time.
2 or
Is that
4
what it-
back then.
2 or 4 years, you think?
It was in 2 or 4.
And you can't get out of it after
No.
that. You just sworn in, that's your commitment, and
Unless
that's
you
it.
want to go AWOL, go to jail. You can't get out of that once you swear it in. That's it.
And so how long were you in the Air
4
Force?
years.
4 years? Okay. And you kind of said a little bit about this. What did you like about the Air Force?
It was a good experience. You know, I met a lot of people, traveled, you know, within the U.S. You know, I learned a lot. I probably wouldn't be where I am today without it, because I got a job as soon as I got out of the military, and I got a good job, you know, and it kind of set my future, you know. I can go in the direction of what I learned in the military, or I can go in the opposite. But most companies, when they see you're a veteran and then they see you're from the Air Force, you know, believe it or not, you know, and then they'll see, well, what did you do in the Air Force? And then you tell them, oh yeah, that's interesting. Versus, you know, I went to the war for 2 years and all I did was in combat, and, you know, that's not really, if you look at, you got to look at it as, can I do this when I get out of the military? If you can't do it when you get out of the military, then I wouldn't suggest taking the job.
And that, you know, that makes a lot of sense.
Because you're not going to always be in the military forever. Yes. And the thing about the Air Force, if you fail, if you don't meet their standards, you say, okay, can I test again? Back then, I think that you have to wait 6 months. So if you're ready to go, who wants to wait 6 months? You know, you've got the Army and the Navy and the Marines standing right in front of you, but the Air Force say, hey, you was a few points off, you can retake the ASVAB in 6 months, but you're ready to go right now. What are you going to do? You're going to leave MEPS and say, okay, I'll come back in 6 months. You know, hey, I'm just going to join the Army. They all pretty much pay the same. You know, let me go on over here. So a lot of people, that could have happened. So it could be a lot of reasons why people join. But I just think those other branches outside of the Air Force is much easier to join. You
Okay.
know, so.
And you said you learned things in the Air Force. Can you elaborate a little bit on the skills and the training that you actually learned in the Air
I
Force?
learned customer service. I learned how to deal with people of much higher authority than me. I've learned how to do pretty much everything that has to do with office, just setting my career. You gotta understand, I came straight out of high school. I don't know anything about career, you know, so when I got out of high school and, you know, a year later go join and go through technical training, they take me through learning the whole aspects of, not flying, because I'm not a pilot, but just keeping up with the flight schedule, you know, keeping up with the pilot, their medical records. You know, I just learned all of that stuff. Typing, you know, as far as the computer, and back then, you know, when we was in high school, we learned how to type with a typewriter, but we didn't learn anything about the computer and how to use it. You know, all of that stuff, I learned all the skill sets the basic skill sets that you need to get a decent career-oriented job. I learned it through the Air Force.
Okay.
So, you know, when I went through my training. And then when I finally got into my actual home station, you know, I just started working every day. And when you start working like that, you start gaining more knowledge, you know, because just going through training is just setting you up for your job. So once you're on the job, I started doing the OJ on the job training, and you know, after a while, it just became a habit. Like, okay, I know how to do this now. So.
Okay. And what did you learn about yourself in the military? Was there anything you learned about yourself?
That I didn't have to depend on anyone. I could depend on myself. You know, so a lot of times we get out of high school and we fear to leave the nest. You know, you got people that's still staying with their parents 5-10 years after high school because they're afraid to be independent, or maybe they weren't never really encouraged to move out and do their own thing. But it kind of helped me grow up much faster. I've never had to reach out to my parents and say, hey, I need you to spare me a nickel or a dime to pay my rent. I never had to do that. Even like to this day, I never had to ask them for any help. So it's really helped me in growing and going into being an adulthood and learning how to depend on myself, and you know, it kind of set that ground. Yeah.
And in your experience, what type of people excel in the military?
What type of people excel? People that say, hey, I don't want to just be an E1. I don't want to be an E2. Just set their sights on being being in a certain rank, because you can go as high as you want in the Air Force. So once you set in your mind, hey, you know what? I already said I was going to do 4 years, period. I'm not doing no more than 4. And then plus I did it to get my, for them to pay for my education to go to college. So that was my goal, because I wanted to go to college. So I said, well, you know what? I just want to go and get this GI Bill and do my time and be done. But you got some people that set a goal and be like, you know what? I really like it here. At one point I thought I was going to stay 4. I'm going to just do my whole career through the Air Force. So, you know, it just depends on wherever their mentality is and what they want to do with their life. You can stay as an E5 for your whole 20 years if you want to. You don't want to test, but then I don't know if you can, because they'll probably be like, okay, you need the test to go to E6 or E7, or you may need to end it, because they do kind of push you to learn more about your career. And you can also switch careers while you're in there too. So the thing about everything, the thing that the Air Force is, everything is free. Like right now, if I wanted to switch careers, what I'm doing now in my civilian life, it's hard. You got to go back to school. You got to pay for that, you know, or you got to take a pay cut and get a job as an entry level. What if I want to be a nurse? I can't just go to a hospital and, you know, sign an application. I don't have any nursing experience. I don't have any hospital experience. I have none of that. So guess what I got to do? I got to go to school for that. But in the Air Force, if you may start off being a bus driver and say, I do not want to be a bus driver for the next 4 years, guess what? You can test out. And they'll give you a book. Well, what career do you want? Okay, this is the book. Study it. It's free. So that's the thing. It's like you're in in your own little free world with the Air Force, and the sky's the limit. You know, it's what your mentality is, what you know you can do in your mind. Just, hey, I'm gonna study, I'm gonna get this job, pass the test, and now I got a job in the Air Force. And then when you get honorably discharged, you can take it to the next level. And whatever job you're doing in the Air Force, you can do it in the outside work, because you already have the experience. What can a civilian job say to you? Oh, I need you to get education. Oh, okay, I got that already. I'm ready. But I think that's why a lot of civilian jobs, they hire veterans, because they know, number one, we're disciplined. Number two, we know the job. Obviously, we learned it. We did it for X amount of years in the military. You know, and they know that veterans, we're going to pretty much be committed to a job. You know, it's a sure shot if you hire, I won't say all veterans, but most veterans, it's a sure shot that you will have a dedicated worker.
Okay. And what are the pros and cons of the Air Force specifically, or the military as a whole? Like,
I mean, pretty much everything I said was a pro. But I think everything I'm saying is pros. Maybe the cons is that if you develop a family, you may have to leave them. You can be deployed. You can be deployed for months. You can be deployed for years. Lucky for me, that never happened to me. You know, I've seen people, they get deployed for months and years, and they miss their family or their children. What else? Just being away. You know, I think that's one of the hardest things for people, is being away from their families.
Is there anything you think that is important for people to know about before joining any branch of military?
Always do your research, due diligence. Don't just join it because your dad was in it or your brother was in it. Make sure you check everything, and whatever job that you do go for, look it up, research it. I always feel like in life, anything you do, don't just jump into it in all fours. Make sure that you do it, because there's some things you may overlook, and then when you get in, it's too late because you can't get out. Once you're in, that's it. You can't be like, oh God, I made a mistake. I don't want to be here. Excuse me. And I think most people, when they go into the into basic training, they lose it. They're like, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, But you can't just walk out and go away. Once you make this, I think one thing about the military, it keeps people committed. You make a decision. That's one thing that I liked about it. It keeps you committed. You can't just say, like, you can go on a job and they get hired, McDonald's don't like it, and walk off the job and have no repercussions other than the fact you ain't gonna get a paycheck. And you can go to another McDonald's up the street and they'll hire you, not knowing you just left this McDonald's up the street. The military, you couldn't do that. It keeps you dedicated, it keeps you focused, it keeps you accountable for whatever decisions that you make. So that's one of the things that I really admire about the military, that it holds you accountable for the decisions that you make to be in it.
That's good. If you could tell women anything about joining the military, what would it be? Or is there anything women in particular should know or be aware of before joining the military?
Anywhere as a woman we go, we gotta be careful. It don't matter if it's the military. It don't matter if you choose a house to live in. You check the neighborhood out, make sure you got a good school district for your kid, all of that. But as far as women, I just think, just see that, make sure that the Air Force have careers that are generated for something that you want to do, versus maybe the Army got a career that, because there's a lot of women that, hey, I don't want to join the Air Force. I want to be in the Army. I want to get out there and fight. Everybody's different. And I can't speak for all women. So, but for the most part, do your due diligence and researching to make sure that the military or whatever branch of service is offering what's going to be best for you in your future, especially if you decide to ever have children, get married,
Okay. And there's 2 questions in there. If you could just pick and answer both of those questions.
2?
Yeah, you could do one at a time. It's just to break up the monotony of things.
If you had a chance to join the military, would you do it? Oh, yeah, I'll do it again. Would you? Like, yes.
The question is, if you had a chance to join the military
Again, would you? Yes, I would.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes I wish I had stayed longer. But it's crap I have to deal with in the outside world. But, yeah, of course. I don't have no complaint. I didn't have any bad experiences like that. Like, there's going to be some people that has. I didn't. I would definitely do it again, I'm kind of sad that I didn't get deployed just for the experience, because I never did go overseas. Something always came up when I did get orders. I either got sick or they canceled them because they didn't need an extra body there. I stayed back. So it was various reasons, but I kind of wish that I got deployed, just for the experience,
We're done, so thank you so much for your time. But just give a shout out, if you don't mind.
A shout out,
yeah, to somebody that is significant to you, or that you find is important.
A shout out to all my military friends. That's what we're talking about, military.
All right, well, thank you, Rashonda, for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for watching. Okay. All right. So first of all, you're out here from Atlanta, Georgia, and which I'm really excited about. We only see each other every 5 years or so, about. And we grew up together, so I'm glad you're here and taking this little time out, because I know you have things to do and just to see in the town again and stuff like that. But we're here for high school reunion. So 1990, you don't want to say, but it's kind of right there on the shirt. Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
Do you believe that a woman can do everything a man can do? This is a military question or what you get? If a woman want to get out there and be a crew chief, she can do it. I never would knock down a female and say, no, you can't. No, I would never do that. But if you really feel like you want to get out there, if you get deployed to Kuwait in that hot sun and you're okay with working out there on that flight line and you don't mind sweating, you know, coming out smelling like, you know, you just built a whole ship, you know, working on a flight line and in the heat and carrying heavy stuff and going back. If you feel like you can do it, do it. You know, if you ask me to do it, I'm like, no, you asked me to go out there and get that tire that just fell off that plane in the sky. That tire over there, go get it. But she will do it. She'll go. So yeah, I mean, like I said, everything is not for everybody. You know, it's like every branch is not for everybody. So definitely, if